Paris, 1925. In the suite of a grand hotel, 6 of the richest scrap metal dealers in France are listening to a government official announce the impossible. The Eiffel Tower is coming down, and it is for sale. Days later, a handshake, a suitcase full of cash, freeze it, right there. Because the official was not an official, the documents were not documents, and the Eiffel Tower was not for sale. This is the story of the greatest scam ever pulled, and of the man who loved it so much. He did it twice. His name, or one of his names, was Victor Lustig. Born in 1890 in a small town in Bohemia, a brilliant student, 5 languages, and one talent above all the others, making people believe. By his 20s, he was working the luxury ocean liners between Europe and America. First class, champagne, wealthy passengers with nothing to do for 7 days at sea, except trust a charming stranger who called himself the Count. He wasn't a thief in the night. He never rushed. His method was patience. Listen, smile, let the victim talk, and let the victim convince himself. Then, one spring morning in Paris, 1925, he opened a newspaper and had the greatest idea in the history of crime. The article said the Eiffel Tower was rusting. Built in 1889, meant to be temporary, it was now costing the city a fortune. And one line caught his eye. Maybe, wrote the journalist, it would be cheaper to just tear it down. Most people read that and turned the page. Lustig read it and saw a for sale sign on the most famous monument on Earth. Step 1. Paper. A counterfeiter produced official government stationery naming him Deputy Director General of the Ministry of Posts and Telegraphs. In 1925, the letterhead was the identity. Step 2. The stage. He rented a suite in one of the grandest hotels in Paris and sent letters to the city's biggest scrap metal dealers. A confidential meeting, an urgent government matter. Tell no one. Step 3. The story. The tower, he announced, was coming down. 7,000 tons of iron sold to the highest bidder. But the deal had to stay secret to avoid public outrage, and that was the genius of it. The secrecy that protected the scam became part of the scam. He even gave them a tour, a rented limousine, a forged access pass, the confident stride of a man who owned the place. From the tower, the dealers looked down at all of Paris, and each one saw his own name on it. But Lustig was only watching one of them, André Poisson, a businessman from the provinces, successful, insecure, desperate to matter in Paris, because the perfect buyer is never the richest man in the room. It's the hungriest. And then came the moment that made this the perfect crime. Poisson hesitated, his wife had doubts, and Lustig, instead of reassuring him, asked him for a bribe. Think about that. A corrupt official is a real official. A con man would never ask for a bribe. In that instant, the lie became impossible to doubt. Remember the handshake we froze? Unfreeze it. Poisson paid the full price of the Eiffel Tower, plus the bribe, and walked out of that hotel believing he owned it. Hours later, Lustig was on a train to Vienna with a suitcase of money, doing what anyone would do after the crime of the century, watching the newspapers, waiting for the scandal. Day 1, nothing. Day 2, nothing. A week, nothing. The greatest scam in history had just happened, and the world didn't know. Because back in Paris, André Poisson had walked into the ministry, asked when the demolition would begin, and been laughed out of the building. He was so ashamed. He told no one, not his colleagues, not the police, no one. And that's when Lustig understood something extraordinary. Shame is the perfect accomplice. A victim too embarrassed to speak, is a crime that never happened. So he asked himself the most audacious question in criminal history. If nobody reported it, why not sell it again? 1 month later, he was back. Same suite, same letterhead, same story. 5 new dealers listening to a government official announce that the Eiffel Tower was for sale. But this time, the chosen buyer did what Poisson hadn't. He checked. The police were called, the newspapers ran the story, and Victor Lustig vanished across the Atlantic. America suited him. In the 30s, he partnered with a master engraver and produced counterfeit bills so perfect that federal agents gave them their own name, Lustig Money. He even conned Al Capone and lived. He took the gangster's money for an investment, kept it untouched in a vault, then returned every single dollar, apologizing that the deal fell through. Capone, amazed by such honesty, rewarded him on the spot. The honesty was the con. But charm can't outrun mathematics forever. In 1935, federal agents finally caught him in New York. The trial was set for the morning. The case was airtight. And by morning, he was gone. He had cut his bed sheets into a rope and slipped out of a window of the federal detention house. And when people on the street looked up at a man dangling from the building, he calmly began wiping the windows. Then he reached the ground, bowed, and disappeared into the crowd. They caught him weeks later, hundreds of miles away, and this time America chose the one place on Earth where charm opens nothing. Alcatraz, the island no one escapes. The man that no lock could hold and no door could stop was finally held by a rock in the middle of the sea. Victor Lustig died in prison in 1947. No fortune, no monument. But the clerk who filled out his death certificate left us the perfect ending. Under occupation, he wrote, "Apprentice Salesman, apprentice." The Eiffel Tower is still there. 7 million visitors a year. And in a way, it's the only monument on Earth that was sold twice and never owned by anyone who paid for it. If stories like this belong on your screen, history's greatest moments rebuilt in miniature, subscribe. The next one is already being built.